Alright guys, we have no time to waste today. Now it's time for teaching time with Tristan.
Hey guys, what's up? It's Tristan back with another video, and today we are going to be learning about the honeybee. So as always, let's get straight into it. Honeybee has been managed in Trinidad and Tobago from the beginning of the 20th century. Honey was exported between 1914 and 1958, with exports reaching as high as 71,177 pounds in 1947. Between 1987 and 2000, Trinidad and Tobago beekeepers won 58 awards at the prestigious National Honey Show in London. Did you know the yellow and black honeybee is not originally from Trinidad and Tobago? So you're probably where it is from. Are you ready? It is from European, yeah, I can pronounce that correct, and African honeybee, both of which were imported. They are called Africanized, yeah, I pronounce it, bees. There are 9 species of stingless bees that do have hives and queen and produce honey. They are used to produce honey for commercial and medicinal, yeah, I pronounce that, medicinal purposes. So guys, if you spot a bee swarm near you, please don't destroy it. Contact the Beekeepers Association or call 470-5436. Okay guys, so this is the life cycle of a honeybee. So as you can see, it starts off in a little egg. So you can see right there. Then it moves on to a larva. Now the plural for larva is larvae, if you did not know that. Then it will move on to a pupa. And as you can see, it grows the eyes, and it now born wings and feet. And then when it goes on to the bee, it have a bigger head, as you can see that. It grows the wings more and the feet, and obviously a bigger body. And yeah, that's about it for the honeybee. And I hope you guys enjoyed. I hope you guys understand that. I hope you guys learn something. And yeah, don't forget to wash your hands, wash your face. Do not touch your face. Wear your mask in public. And you guys have a great day. Bye. Or should I say, peace.
Hi, my name is Amanda Elliott. Today we're going to be reading A Wish to Be a Christmas Tree by Colleen Monroe, illustrated by Michael Glenn Monroe. Every year, as traditions go, they get in their cars at the first sign of snow and head to the farm at the edge of town to cut the family Christmas tree down. As Christmas neared, the trees rejoiced, for families would come and make their choice. Which trees would go and which would stay? Oh, please pick me, the trees would say. Take me to your home, said the fat Scotch pine. Dress me with bulbs and lights, said the fir so fine. They were all excited except for one. He knew that his days of being picked were done. I've seen my sisters and brothers, daughters and sons, grandkids and great-grandkids picked one by one. I'll never be taken home. I'm too big, too tall. His sobbing and crying made his pine needles fall. A little squirrel was wandering by and stopped to hear the big tree cry. Take heart, my friend, and don't you fear. To many of us, you are so dear. Your branches keep us safe and warm. You are our shelter from the storm. A cardinal flying by chirped in, "You are my safety from the wind." Said a white-tailed deer who was walking through, "Cheer up, my big friend, because I need you too. Your needles give me a nice soft bed, a place to lie down and rest my head. These things you say to me are kind, but nothing can really change my mind. All my life I've wanted to be someone's special Christmas tree." With that, he drew his branches in and closed his eyes to dream again, and wished that someday he would be more than just a great big tree. Fast asleep in dreams far away, he did not hear the little squirrel say, "You will be our Christmas tree. Let us decorate you for all to see." "Come gather around," the little squirrel cried, "to woodland animals both far and wide. We need to act without delay to end our great big friend's dismay. He is our friend, this wonderful tree, and do you know where we would be without the special things he gives? I don't know how we would all live." Without ever complaining, he's given these things, yet never knowing the joy that he brings, offering friendship from the very start, never once revealing the dream in his heart. Everyone should bring a treasure so our giant friend can measure the love for him that our hearts hold, the feelings that we've never told. Each animal came with gifts to bear, over ground, through the trees, and some through the air. With acorns, icicles, and berries so bright, they worked and trimmed into the night. The crows searched their nests full for shiny things, hoping to find the perfect present to bring. There among their treasures found from afar was the most beautiful, bright, shining star. His woodland friends decorated him with special things hanging from every limb. Acorns were dangling off branches strong, berries were strung as a garland so long. The first morning sun brought a wondrous sight, as icicles glimmered and captured the light. Colorful birds perched all over the pine, as beautiful as bulbs and just as fine. Blue jays as blue as a crisp winter day, cardinals bright red perched near doves, soft and gray. The birds were singing so soft and clear, their most beautiful songs for the pine tree to hear. The big tree stirred and opened his eyes, and what he saw was such a surprise. "You have made me beautiful for all to see, and now I am a Christmas tree." "You are more than just a Christmas tree," they said to him. "Why can't you see? You are special to us every day of the year. We would be sad if you weren't always near. We're glad you stayed with us all these years, but we're sorry that it caused you tears. We should have told you the many ways you are special to us and brighten our days. Through the winter and spring, summer and fall, you are always here to help us all." With that, they gathered around the tree, and suddenly the tree could see it wasn't as important to be a Christmas tree, but always to be the best friend you can be. And every year to celebrate, they come together on that date to decorate from end to end the special tree that is their friend. That was A Wish to Be a Christmas Tree. Thank you so much for watching and reading with me.
Sometimes I too wish I could be a Christmas tree. Thank you so much, Amanda. Alright guys, so we're keeping it moving. Up next, I want to welcome somebody who's very, very special to us here at Malice. I'm talking about the Executive Director, Paula Green. Take it away, Paula.
Hello boys and girls and parents. I'm extremely delighted to share with you this wonderful story entitled O Christmas Tree by Vishanti Rahman. Please join me and little Anselm as we learn to recognize and appreciate the signs and traditions of a true Caribbean Christmas. Anselm danced down the road past his mother's flaming poinsettia hedge. Here, chick, 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 chick. Here, chick, 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 chick. Miss Mary, who lived on the other side of the hedge, was feeding her fowls. Morning, Miss Mary, Anselm called. I go in and watch them unload the Christmas boat. Pa said we could get a real Christmas tree this year. Said Miss Mary, scattering a handful of fowl food. Why real have to come in boat from Maui? It have real here too. But real Christmas tree don't grow here, said Anselm. It's all right, child, said Miss Mary. Go and watch your boat. By the time Anselm reached the docks, the Caribbean sun had already warmed the day. Scents of salt and fish and motor oil swirled pungently together, and the little slap-slap songs of the wave were drowned out by roaring motors, rattling chains and shouting workers. On top of all of that, transistor radios blared out Christmas carols and calypso. Anselm sat on cable spoon and watched a swarm of little boats bringing cargo from the big ship. He watched cranes unloading Christmas things that came to the West Indies from abroad. He watched big trucks coming and going. He watched for the Christmas tree. Day was nearly done when the first load of Christmas tree reached the shore. Anselm didn't know whether to hold his head and bawl or hold his belly and laugh. Must be a bad joke, he thought. But it was no joke. The growing pile of trees on the jetty was real. A real pile of dry bush. In other years, the trees had arrived looking fresh and green. But this year, the first year Anselm family can afford a Christmas tree, they had arrived looking like rubbish. They were so dry that not a single tree had a single needle on it. Anselm was too vexed and too disappointed to even bawl. He turned his back on the dead trees and headed home. Downtown was decorated for Christmas. Anselm passed fake Santas in shop windows. He passed fake trees covered with fake snow. Fake, he thought, as he trudged down, fake just like Christmas down here. All this thing we just sing about in Christmas carol, I never hoped to see that. All this fireplace and sleigh and snowman and Christmas card, I never hoped to see that. All I was hoping for was a real Christmas tree. Just one time. To touch it and smell it and get a feel and a smell of real Christmas. Anselm sniffed and swallowed his tears. Surprised, he sniffed again. There was no mistaking that sweet, smoky Christmas smell. Must be Miss Mary, he thought. Sure enough, Miss Mary had her Christmas ham boiling in a big tin on a fire in there. She was busy fanning the flames. Anselm's mother had been busy too. On the front porch were 2 gallon bottles, one filled with pink sorrel drink and the other filled with a clear ginger beer. As Anselm lifted the latch on the porch gate, his ma called, Anselm, bring the sorrel and the ginger inside, boy. Anselm carefully picked up the glass bottles. Once ma started making ginger and sorrel, you knew Christmas was near. Next, she would take a whole day to make black cake, with the raisins and currants soaking in a big jar. But as soon as Anselm pushed open the front door with his foot, he knew that Ma had already finished making the black cake. Only black cake, full of molasses and butter and raisin and spice, could make a house smell like that. Anselm's mouth watered as he counted the cake. Leave my cake and wash your hands, said Ma. Your pa will reach home for supper just now. So what you did today, boy? Asked Pa as he emptied his plate. Anselm told about the trees. And did not fear, he said, blinking and blinking to dry his eyes. Not fear to bring dead trees. Boy, said Pa, getting up from the table. Not fear is when hurricane pass and take everything you work for. Nothing like that happen now. It don't take tree to make Christmas. Yes, Pa, said Anselm. Ma squeezed Pa's hand. Then she got up and kissed Anselm on the forehead. Come help your Ma clean the kitchen, she said. The next day, Anselm went back to the docks and asked for a dried up tree. Take what you want, said one of the dock workers. Those trees are only good to throw away. So Anselm set out for home with 2 of the biggest trees he could find. There's some gravel left from the new house by Miss Mary's neighbor, he thought, as he dragged the trees through town. And man has an old bucket with a hole, and pound and a half tin of old white paint from when the house used to be white. All that will work, he thought, as he and the trees took a rest by the roadside. When he finally got home, Anselm set to work. Hours later, tired and dirty and spattered with paint, he called the man pa into the backyard. Ma stared at the 2 naked trees standing in a bucket of gravel and shook her head. It looked just like the expensive artificial trees in the shop, not so, ma? Said Anselm. White paint covered the trees and the gravel and the bucket and half of the backyard. Like you was trying for a white Christmas, said Pa. What's that smell? I sprayed it with pine cleaner so it would smell like a real tree, said Anselm. I did a good job, eh? Ma threw her apron over her head and started making funny noises. Anselm couldn't tell if she was laughing or crying. Pa pushed his cap back on his head and gave Anselm a big hug. You did good, child, he said. Maybe too good. What do you mean, Pa? Said Anselm. I mean, said Pa, it have no way at all that your tree go in and fit in the house. As Anselm was thinking that over, a strong breeze blew through the yard. Anselm's arrangement trembled. The 2 trees yawned apart. Then the whole contraption capsized, tree and gravel and bucket and all. Eh. What trouble is this, said Ma? Christmas fall down is what, said Anselm, wiping away his tears. Sorry, Ma. Let me clean up the mess. Don't worry, son, said Pa. Go take a bath. Your ma will make some tea for you. It go in and take my big cutlass to chop that tree, and you can't handle it. Maybe, thought Anselm, as he scrubbed and scrubbed at the paint all over him, maybe Christmas is plenty little things. Little things like how ma and Pa take that big mess out there so easy. On Christmas Day, right after the early morning church service, Miss Mary brought over some of her ham and stayed for breakfast. She inspected the colored lights by the window. She examined the Christmas cards on the wall. But what happened about the Christmas tree you was going and get? She asked Anselm. A big nothing happened, he said. I just find out they have more to Christmas than Christmas tree. Miss Mary pulled Anselm into a hug that smelled strongly of English lavender. You really think that is a big nothing, child? She asked. No, said Anselm, trying to wriggle out. That is a special something, but a Christmas tree would still be nice. Nice is how you see it, child, said Miss Mary as she pinched his chin gently and let him go. Nice could be right in front of you, but you're busy looking behind. If nice was here, I would have seen it, said Anselm. Think about it, child, said Miss Mary. Anselm leaned out the window to watch the Christmas sunrise, and then he saw them. Christmas trees. Real life Christmas trees, Miss Mary was right. They had been there all the time. Look, he shouted, dancing around. The poinsettia. The poinsettia, them is Christmas tree for true. For true, said Miss Mary with a knowing smile. For true. The end. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Auntie Queenie, and today Auntie Queenie is going to tell you a story called The Green Poinsettia Tree. Now, this story was written by a special lady storyteller and author, Ain't Pearl Springer, and you may read the story in her book, Godchild, which is written specially for children. Now, once upon a time, there was a green poinsettia tree growing in Ma Ruby's yard. Now, before I tell you about the poinsettia tree, I want to tell you something about Ma Ruby. Ma Ruby was fat and warm, but she did not have any children, and that before she used to be sad about that. But her mother used to tell her, look, Ruby, you mustn't worry about that. When you are a woman, any child is your child. Yes, when I was a little girl, my mother used to correct Any child she see misbehaving in the road, she used to give them advice on how to behave. But things change up now, you know. Well, you can't talk to people, children. Their parents just get vexed. But I am telling you, you too kunu. Because when there are many children who are out there and who want somebody to take care of them. And when you take care of children, God does bless you for it. Now, when she tell Ma Ruby, you do kunu, you know what that means. Any child in Trinidad and Tobago knows that kunu is short for kunumunu. Now, kunumunu means someone who is not so wise. And Ma Ruby, mother, used to say all kinds of things. So she never have time to say the whole word. So she say, Ruby, you do kunu. Once you are a woman, any child is your child. Now, Ma Ruby was a little selfish, you know. She had a nice house with a wide lawn and flowers and fruit trees. She had guava, mango, sapodilla, poinsettia, many trees. But she never liked to give away any of her fruits. When the children passed in the evening, she used to stand by her backyard with her arms folded. And when they come near her fruit trees, she used to shoo them away. I said, go on from here. What happened? All your mother don't feed all your what? Another thing, Ma Ruby loved to cook. She used to cook and bake and make pay-me and pastel and cakes. But only to sell. She never used to give away any. Now when Ma Ruby's mother died, Ma Ruby was a bit lonely. So she bought a nice furry cat. And she had a beautiful basket. So in the night before she goes to bed, she used to take the basket, put the little cat in the basket, and put it at the foot of her bed. Now, one day, the cat disappeared. 2 weeks, Ma Ruby can't find the cat nowhere. Until a neighbor come, and the neighbor tell her, Ruby, I see the children bring home this cat. I just checking. This is yours? Ma Ruby get vexed. And Ma Ruby grab her cat. But you know, 2 days later, the cat disappear again. The cat prefer to go by the children who will pull him and play with him and jump all around with him instead of the warm, comfortable bed of Ma Ruby. Now, you're wondering about the green poinsettia tree, eh? I come into that. Ma Ruby loved Christmas. And she loved poinsettia. That is why she planted the green poinsettia tree. And every Christmas, she will look through the window to see if it is turning red. But 5 years, the poinsettia tree never turned red yet. And Ma Ruby wasn't too happy about that. So one morning she said, you see you, I'm going to cut you down, you know. Because Christmas, after Christmas, you're not turning red at all. That night, Ma Ruby had a dream. The poinsettia tree shake off his little roots and walk quietly into Ma Ruby's bedroom, looking down at Ma Ruby. And suddenly she saw a whole field of poinsettia, red poinsettia, waving brilliantly in the breeze. And then they all bowed down and form a cradle. And in the center of the cradle was baby Jesus. And they were rocking baby Jesus from side to side. And then the children gather around baby Jesus, who was being rocked by the red poinsettia, and they began to sing a song to baby Jesus of happy birthday. Then suddenly, only the green poinsettia tree was left, and looking sadly down at Ma Ruby with tears in his eyes. And then it disappeared. Suddenly, in the morning, Ma Ruby get up, and she remembered the dream. She said, I must have had too much to eat last night, you know. My stomach must have was too full. What kind of dream is that? But she decided to throw that off because it was Christmas Eve and she began all her cooking and baking and so on. Suddenly, as the morning wore off, she heard a loud siren going up the hill. When she looked outside, the whole hill was engulfed in black smoke. She said, oh God, my Tabitha new house on fire. She ran up the hill. Ma Ruby never used to do too well with the neighbors, but she wanted to know what was happening. By the time she get up the hill, only to see Tabitha's house flat to the ground and gather around her were all the children. And all she was doing was calling her head and crying. Say, oh God, what am I going to do? What am I going to do? All the children clothes burn up. All their food, all their toys. What are we going to do on this Christmas Eve? What are we going to do? All the neighbors were so sorry for Tabitha. But they were just as poor and they could not help. Suddenly, Ma Ruby remembered the childlike figure being rocked by the red poinsettia tree, and something came over her. And she said quietly, Jessie, you could bring the children by me, you know, but they have to behave. And they began to walk to Ma Ruby's house. Well, the children were very sad because this was the lady who they used to steal her fruit, they stole her cat, and they were not too happy that they had to go by her house. But that was the only house that they had left to go to. They walked behind their mother as they went to Ma Ruby's house. As Ma Ruby entered the house and the children behind her with their mother, they found the house was warm and it was well decorated. But they sat quietly in a corner and Ma Ruby went to her room. Ma Ruby suddenly called out to her, Jessie, you could look in the cupboard and see what it has for the children. Well, she went to the cupboard and there was a feast. There was cake and pastel and sweet bread and ham and turkey. And she began to take out for the children. Suddenly the children began to laugh and sing as they began to eat. And Ma Ruby came out of her room quietly because she was a little afraid of the children, you know. Then she sat on a chair close to the window while she looked at them. The smallest child suddenly looked at Ma Ruby and went to her and sat on her lap. Ma Ruby felt as if her heart could burst, and she hugged the little child as if she wanted to squeeze the life out of her. And suddenly she felt so warm and peaceful as she was shaking her head, as she raised her head and she looked up. To her surprise, through the window, the green poinsettia tree had turned brilliantly red. And she called him, she said, look, look, the tree is red, it is red. And they all looked through the window and everyone was happy. And Ma Ruby felt so happy and peaceful as the children began to laugh and play. It was the best Christmas ever. And the poinsettia tree had turned red on this beautiful Christmas Eve day. The end.
Thank you so much, Auntie Queenie, for that fantastic reading there. All right, guys, are you ready to get up and do some more dancing? What? You're not ready? Come on, get up out that chair. Get up, get up, get up. It's time for your part 2 of your Zumba class with Auntie Nadia.
All right, guys. Hello, hello. We are back for our second dose of Zumba. And as I said, my name was Auntie Nadia, and I want to welcome you all again to dance another special dance with me. Another very special song. I know most of y'all would know it too. All the kiddies, I know y'all love it. You'll have to bring that full energy from me, okay? You'll have to get strong. You'll have to get big. You'll have to get loud. All right? That's what this song is all about. So please, Make sure, as I said, get your water, clear out your space. If you're now coming in, if you're now tuning in, all right, I hope you all enjoyed the other readers who were here, making sure I'm reading your wonderful stories and the ones that are going to be coming. So please make sure and stay tuned. To everybody, we have a fun-packed show for you. So get ready to dance. Our next song is Up. As I said, get strong and loud. Let's go, guys. Smile.
Should make you stronger. So my problems is like steroids, boy. I get my doses from all kinds of sources, and all of them still can't kill me now. You see, as them sink me under ISO, ride out the storm, them just like a boat. So as the box me down, so I get up. They have to wonder how others get up, and every crack I see, I just see through. And by the help of God, I just get through. I just won't stop. I feel like hope. Trials and testings does come before blessings, but we have to be patient, yeah. Weeping and mourning in the night, but joy in the morning. But we just have to endure. You see, God, the way no night come, so you don't really need to lie down. Them say what goes around comes right like a wrong. I go wait until my time come. So from sun up straight to sunset, you could catch I busting and sweat. I must time out. I feel like hope. Move any mountain, I trample any building like hope. Man better than monster. Dismantle any structure, boy. Trample them, trample them, trample them, trample them. Rip up my shop and bust up my jeans and slip on my problems. Then what we gonna do? Trample them, trample them, trample them. Kick out them, kick out my problems, kick out my problems. You see, the Most High never give us more than we can bear, but He give us the strength and the will and the power and the courage to handle our problems through Him. So on the count of 4, I want everybody step on their problems. 1, 2, 3, 4. Trample them, trample them, trample them, trample them. Man under them, man under them. Dismantle them, dismantle them. Trample them, trample them, trample them. Kick out them, kick out your problems, kick out your problems. So as they sink you under, you float. Ride on the storm, them just like a boat. So as they push you down, so you get up. They have to wonder how you just get up. And every crack you see, you just see through. And by the help of God, you will get through. Now everybody stop. I feel like hope.
Oh, wow. Wow, guys, wow. You all were amazing. Look at you all my little hulks. Show your hands. Show me. Show me. I want to see your muscles. Very good, guys. All right. As I said, we have other readers coming up. So get ready for the fun. Smile. Give us good energy. And please, we cannot wait to see you again. We love you. Thank you so much. Kids, keep dancing. Keep having fun. Keep smiling. Love you all very much. From Auntie Nadia, Auntie Zumba with Nadia. See you all next time. Bye.
Woo! Thank you so much, Auntie Nadia, for that fantastic Zumba session. All right, guys, let's settle down, settle down, settle down. Have a seat, and let's get back into some more stories. We just have a little bit more left. So can I get your listening ears on? Nice. Up next, I want to welcome my good friend and my co-host, Lisa Wickham. Lisa, take it away.
Hello children, I am Lisa Wickham. You can call me Auntie Lisa. And today I'm going to read you a book called Lucille Travels at Christmas. It's a Jamaican child's story. And you know, Jamaica, like Trinidad and Tobago, is in the Caribbean. So let's go. Lucille always daydreamed about traveling. She'd never left her island, Jamaica, in real life. But in her daydreams, she would travel to faraway places. She'd be brushing her teeth in the morning and whoosh, a camel would appear in the bathroom mirror. She would climb up the sink and onto its back. Lucille would disappear into the desert, squinting in the sun while eating the delicious figs which someone had mysteriously placed in the camel's side bags. And then suddenly, puh! She would realize that the figs were tasting like toothpaste. Lucille even daydreamed about traveling when she was at school. Daydreaming in school. Sometimes on the very top of the monkey bars. Lucille would find herself at the very top of the Eiffel Tower, far above the people, the coconut trees and the thick green mountains. She would be shouting, "Bonjour, bonjour." That means hello, hello, to everyone in Paris, because the Eiffel Tower is in Paris. And then suddenly she would hear a voice coming up from below. "Lucille, must you really make so much noise? Please come inside." Lucille would look down from the tower and see Mrs. Grant, her classroom teacher. Oops! Lucille's friends would tease her about her travels to faraway places that she would visit, places that they didn't even dare to dream of. But really, they were always excited to hear about Lucille's travels, especially Kevin and Lisa. That's my name, but it's not me. Who had few storybooks and no television at home. Lucy lived in a pretty blue and white Caribbean house with her mother and father. At home, she would run up and down the stairs, twirling bath towels, and the sound would be fluh, fluh, fluh. Lucille would find herself in the middle of a parade in China, doing cartwheels while twirling a long, brightly colored cloth banner. There would be many smiling faces in the crowd. And then suddenly, boop, Lucille would be on the bottom step, looking at her father's squiggling eyebrows. "Lucille," he would say, "what exactly are you doing?" Lucille didn't know exactly. She was traveling. One Christmas Eve, while lying in bed, Lucille tried to sleep, but try as hard as she could, she just couldn't. She really tried. She tried counting sheep. Count with me. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 100. She still couldn't sleep. So she tried to travel. She began to stare at the candy canes her mother had hung in the window to attract the reindeer's attention. 1, 2, 3, count with me, 4, 5, 6, very good, 7, 8, 30. She even counted their stripes and their wrappings. What comes after 30? 31, 32, 33, 34, 35, 36, 37, 38, 65. But still, Lucille could not travel. Lucille was too excited to travel. The reindeer were coming, Santa was coming, and best of all, presents were coming. The Christmas tree downstairs was sparkling with gold and silver bells. Tinsel and poinsettias were everywhere in the house, and presents of all different shapes and sizes were piled under the tree. Kevin and Lisa would be coming over for dinner because there was no money for Christmas at their home, and she could smell the ham baking in the oven. She could even hear the crackling and the fizzling as it slowly baked to perfection. And she knew that in the morning, her mother would dress it up with juicy pineapples, yummy, and serve it with her favorite gongo peas and rice. We call that pigeon peas. Sweet roasted plantain and a big glass of sorrel as red as Santa's suit. And still, Lucille could not sleep, and Lucille could not travel. She decided to turn on the light and read a book which lay open on the floor. It was a Christmas story with many pictures all over its giant pages. All of a sudden, Lucille found herself sitting on one point of a shining star, way up high, looking down. There were no mountains or beaches or monkey bars for that matter. All that Lucille could see was a very small town, a dot in the middle of a desert with its lights shimmering like little bits of tinsel. As she began to concentrate, Lucille saw the shape of a camel, and then she began to see other shapes. 3 camels, 3 bulging camels. The side bags on these camels were so full, they looked as if they were about to burst. Lucille was sure they were full of delicious figs. Up in the sky, the star on which Lucille sat was twinkling. The whole sky seemed full of bright promises, and Lucille made a special wish for Kevin and Lisa. As she looked down below, things became clearer, and she could see that each camel carried one rider. They seemed to look up at her and nod their heads. Nod your heads like a camel. Then Lucille's star began to move a little to the east, a little to the right, and the riders followed. Even from up so high, Lucille could see that these were very important people. As Lucille's star moved closer to them, she could see one person who was very dark-skinned, almost black, wearing bright blue robes, another who was very pale-skinned, almost white, wearing bright green robes, and another brown-skinned who was almost as golden as the robes he wore. They were all princes traveling. The night wind was lifting the sand, making it hard to see, but she could see the prince's robes fluttering, as she could almost hear the fluff, fluff, fluff sound the cloth was making as it twirled about their faces to keep away the sting of the desert sand. As the princes approached the entrance to the small town, Lucille saw them climb down from their camels. Their robes were swirling all about them as they unloaded their side bags. Each prince took out what looked like a gift wrapped in silk cloth. They held these gifts up in both hands as they approached the town. The gate opened. Lucille's star moved in even closer and was twinkling directly above the 3 princes as they entered a stable just behind the gate, when suddenly she heard a loud noise. Santa Claus and his reindeer were racing by with a mountain of gifts on the back of a sled. "Merry Christmas," he shouted to Lucille and to the sky full of stars. "Merry Christmas, Lucille! Wakey, wakey!" What would we say in Trinidad and Tobago? Wake up! Wake up! It was her mother's voice. Lucille opened her eyes. She knew at once that she had traveled. She remembered the 3 princes carrying their gifts. She also remembered Santa Claus speeding by, carrying gifts for Kevin and Lisa, who were sure to get them. And she knew at once that her wish had been answered. Lucille jumped out of bed, hugged her parents, and bounced down the stairs to open her gifts. She shouted, "Merry Christmas!" as loud as she could to her mother, to her father, to all the camels, to the city of Paris, to all the parades in China, to the princes, to Santa and his reindeer, and to everyone on the island of Jamaica. You know what, children? She shouted so loudly that we in Trinidad and Tobago could even hear her. Can you hear her? Let me hear you. Can you hear her? All right, so that brings to the end this story, Lucille Travels at Christmas, a Jamaican children's story. I am Auntie Lisa Wickham. It was my pleasure, and remember to read. It's very important to read. Merry Christmas.
Hi, my name is Peter Rayblood. Today I'm reading Gregory Cool, by Carolyn Birch. Gregory, you just like your photos, cried Granny. It's your grandpa got to kiss you at last. And here's your grandpa. My, we're so pleased to have you home, Grandpa said. Sitting in the taxi from the airport, squashed tightly between his grandparents, Gregory wished he was back home with his mom and dad. Why did he have to come to Tobago? The air was stifling, and the strange smells disturbed him. Gregory shut his eyes. All of a sudden he felt very tired. The taxi stopped outside a very small house. Do you really live here? Asked Gregory. Granny and Grandpa just laughed as they took him inside and showed him his room. The last he saw before he fell asleep was a lizard looking down at him from the ceiling. Gregory woke up next morning with just a sheet over him. It was hot. Sun poured in through the open window. There were no toys, no books, no carpet, not even a proper door. Gregory scratched at his arm. Something had bitten him during the night. Was he really expected to stay here for 4 weeks? In the kitchen, Granny was cooking breakfast and Grandpa sat at a small table with a boy Gregory hadn't seen before. This must be his cousin. His mom had told him about Lennox and how he lived with Granny and Grandpa. Good morning, Gregory. They all smiled at him. Come, have some food, boy. Then Lennox will show you around, said Granny. Gregory sat down and looked at his breakfast plate. Scrambled eggs, he could deal with that. But it wasn't eggs. Gregory spluttered and spat out the salty stuff as politely as he could. Hey, you don't like bacon buljol? Said Grandpa. It's just bread and saltfish. It's cool, said Gregory. I'm just not hungry. He drank a glass of fruit juice and followed Lennox outside. Lennox was a year older than Gregory, but much smaller. What do you do around here? Asked Gregory. Got a bike? Lennox grinned shyly at him. He had bare feet. Gregory looked at them, then looked away quickly. Come, I'll show you the river, said Lennox. The air was shimmering hot. Gregory sat down in the shade. I'd rather stay here, he said. It's cool. Well, I'll go feed the goats, then dip in the river, said Lennox, and off he ran. Gregory watched him go. Didn't want to play with him anyway, he thought. How can he move so fast in this heat? He stretched out flat and dreamed of hamburgers. But supper that evening turned out to be meat so hot and spicy he could only eat the rice on his plate. The next day was worse, even hotter. More itchy insect bites, and still nothing to do. Not even TV to watch. Gregory thought about going to feed the goats with Lennox, but changed his mind. He wouldn't know how. So instead he sat in the yard and played with his pocket video game until Lennox came back. He offered Lennox a game. Man, this is boss, laughed Lennox. You letting them kill you, said Gregory. Let me show you. But Lennox jumped up and left saying, You sure know it all, Gregory. You sure think you're cool. Granny appeared carrying a big basket. Right now, children, she said, Grandpa and me is taking you for a sea bath. Wicked, shouted Lennox, leaping around the yard. Cool, said Gregory politely. Cool was the last thing he felt, but he wasn't going to say so. At least he might get a fizzy drink and an ice lolly at the beach. The bus they caught was like an oven, crammed with people. When they finally got there, the beach had palm trees and sand, just like a travel poster. But there wasn't anywhere to get ice cream or chips, and Gregory had missed out again on breakfast, so he was feeling very hungry. Lennox rushed off, cartwheeling along the sand. Gregory sauntered after him. What was there to get excited about? The sea looked warm, blue, and a bit rough. Gregory was a good swimmer, and he jumped into the waves with a shout. Suddenly, he saw something that made him freeze. Sharks! He started swimming for his life. When he reached the shore, he was spluttering and shaking with fright. Sharks? Oh no, Gregory. There are no sharks, said Granny, comfortingly. They're dolphins. Look, see, the dolphin is our best sea friend. Grandpa was chuckling. Lennox fell about laughing. You are a fool, Gregory. You know cool. Gregory stomped off. The sun blazed overhead, and the sand was hot under his bare feet that he had to run. Two fishermen called him over, opened a coconut and offered him a drink. Cool, said Gregory. Thanks. Heh, one of them said, what's your name? Gregory, he told them. I'm staying with my granny and grandpa. What you doing with yourself then? You been swimming? Yes, said Gregory. I thought I saw some sharks, but they were just cool. They were just dolphins, so it was cool. Friendly sharks, eh? You gotta watch them, they said, grinning. Gregory couldn't help smiling too. One of the fishermen wrapped a big red fish in a leaf. Here, Gregory Cool, take this to your granny and come out fishing with us soon. Gregory was grinning when he presented his parcel to Granny. My, what a lovely fish, Gregory, said Granny, giving him a hug. Tonight we have a big fish fry. Now sit down and eat something. The picnic was fried chicken, sweetbread, fruit and biscuits. It tasted good. But Gregory was feeling thirsty again. Got any coconut to drink? He asked. Easy, said Lennox. He went straight up a coconut tree, no trouble at all. It did look easy, but when Gregory tried, the trunk was far too tall and smooth for him to climb. Grandpa took one of the young coconuts Lennox had brought down and opened it with his machete. It was full of juice. Said Gregory, drinking it in one gulp. Suddenly he felt like swimming. Hey, Lennox, I'm a shark, he said. Yeah, shouted Lennox, and I'm a massive stingray. The boys jumped into the water together. Dusk fell. Back at Granny's house, Lennox took Gregory up the hill to watch the moon rise. Gregory kicked off his trainers. He wanted to be barefoot too. Below them, the lights came on one by one in the small wooden houses. People called to each other. Music played on the radio and someone started singing. Insects whirred, dogs barked, and a donkey brayed. Look at the candle flies, said Lennox, and Gregory noticed tiny lights moving around, all around them. Gregory smiled to himself. Drinks from trees, friendly sharks, a great new cousin. Maybe Tobago was going to be all right after all. Granny called up from the house below. Gregory, Lennox, food ready? Okay, said Gregory. Cool, Greg, and the mighty Lennox, we coming. Granny laughed as they raced down the track together. Lennox shouted, yes, you cool, Gregory. You're really cool. Hope you enjoy this story. Gregory Cool by Carolyn Birch. And check us out again.
Hi, boys and girls. This is Auntie G, and I'm going to tell you a tale from this wonderful book, Boboy and the Duendes and Other Stories by Al Ramsawak. My story is entitled Anansi's Enchanted Violin. One day, Compare Anansi, the spider, found an old violin in the village dump. Ah, he sighed, I'll take this home and maybe I'll fix it up like new again. And closing his eyes, he thought about some merry tunes he could play on the violin. For many days, he worked at the repairs till the old violin was strong and shiny like a new one. His wife and children crowded around to see the beautiful little instrument. They begged him, "Please play a nice tune for us, Papa." Their little eyes shiny and anxious. "It has no strings, children," he said, scratching his head. "I do not know where to get strings now, but I shall ask Compere Lion for a few strands of his hair to use as strings." Leaving his violin, he rushed through the forest to Compere Lion's hut. He asked the big lion for the strands of hair, but Compere Lion replied, "My hair is not suitable. Lion's hair does not make good music." He went around asking many of the animals whom he knew. Among them were Compere Tiger, Compere Goat, and others, till at length he met Compere Horse. "Good afternoon, Compere Horse," he greeted. "I have a pretty little violin. If only I can get strings for it, I shall make beautiful music, and then my friends can join in singing Christmas parang through the village." "I love parang music," shouted Compere Horse. "It gives me a special Christmas joy. I'll do anything to help you." He whisked his tail about, and nodding at Anansi, he said, "Here's my little spider friend. Pull out a few strands of tail hair, and you shall make the most beautiful music in the world. I give you that as a Merry Christmas present." Soon, Compere Anansi plucked the hairs and hurried back home. He fixed the strings onto the violin and bow, and shortly his family danced to his wonderful music. It was the week before Christmas, and Anansi went around to Compere Lion, Compere Tiger, Compere Goat, and Compere Morocco. They formed themselves into a parang band. Each night they made sweet music and sang Christmas songs, parang songs, from hut to hut in the village. This made the villagers happy, and they knew that Christmas was near. And Anansi and his band were a jolly lot. "You have been very kind to make such parang music to the villagers." Anansi could not believe. He drew the violin in front of him as the violin spoke. "I am an enchanted violin. You have given me a new life when others had thrown me into the dump to die and rot. You have made the villagers happy with your enchanted music. You have deprived yourself and your family of a good Christmas to make others happy. You have not been selfish. For once, you have been a good Compere Anansi." "But that does not help me now," said Anansi with tears in his eyes. "What will I tell them in the morning? A Merry Christmas? Will that make them happy while they go hungry?" "You are sure right, Compere Anansi," smiled the violin. "Those are magic words. You go to bed and have a good sleep, and in the morning you rise early and just say, 'A Merry Christmas.'" The enchanted violin grew silent, and Anansi hurried along to his home. When he reached, his wife and children were fast asleep. He hung his violin on the wall and crept silently to their beds to look at their sleeping little faces. From each little eye, there was a drop of tear drying, and he knew that they had cried themselves to sleep. Papa Anansi wiped a tear from his own eyes as he lay down to sleep that Christmas Eve night. It was early on Christmas morning when Anansi rose. He looked around, nodding his head in sadness. Then his violin called out, "A Merry Christmas to you, compere Anansi." The spider looked back at his violin. He replied, "A Merry Christmas." And in a wink, Anansi stared in wonder, for there were new curtains up. On the table there was a big Christmas ham, cakes and bread and wine and rum, bowls of meat and goodies, and the smell of Christmas. And Nancy rushed back to the children. "A Merry Christmas, everybody! Get up and see." They opened their eyes. At each little head there was a toy, and reaching out for their toys, their old clothes changed into new clothes. They scampered about excitedly, looking at the new curtains and table of Christmas goodies. Madame Anansi rushed out to join in the excitement, and as she stretched her arms to thank Anansi, a big Christmas present filled her arms. The violin chuckled something and soon filled the happy little hut with enchanting Christmas music. Madame Anansi said to her husband, "Last night we cried, thinking that you were very selfish, but now we know that you are the most wonderful papa in the world." Anansi turned to his violin. With a wink in his eye, he said, "And you are the most enchanted violin in the world." Crick crack, monkey breaky back for a piece of pabarack.
Crick crack. And guess what, children? We've come to the end. Yes, I know you want so many more stories, but you know what you can do? You can actually pick up a book and read them. You can come to the library and get books rented as well. Yeah? Sounds like a plan. I want to say thank you guys so much for staying tuned to the Celebrity Tale-a-Thon. And thank you to our sponsors. We could not have done it without you. Republic Bank, thank you so much. NGC, thank you so much. Optometrist Today, thank you so much. Kiss Baking Company, thank you so much. And of course, Venture Credit Union, thank you so much for allowing us to do this today. And thank each and every one of you for tuning in and staying for the entire show. And guess what? If you want to win the prizes, children, boys and girls, you listen, I'm talking to you. You have to write down your paragraph and submit it before December 23rd. All right? And you can win a very special prize. Parents, you can win prizes too. All you have to do is count how many times the logo showed up on the screen. And remember, you can win a prize from Optometrist Today. All right? My name is Ruckus. It's been a pleasure being here. Thank you to all of our storytellers today. Every single one of you. Thank you, thank you. We appreciate it. And children, we're going to say bye? All right. Bye. Take care, guys. Till next time.